Hello. Today I'm going to be presenting to you a topic that's kind of near and dear to me. It's teaching English in the Arab world. I'm going to be discussing the northern region, which is also called the Levant region. There are 22 countries that make up the Arab world. 11 of those are in northern Africa. And what is kind of tricky about the regions is, although they are all collectively called Arabic countries, they span two continents and multiple regions, including multiple dialects, religions, languages, because in some instances it is like Turkey, southern Turkey is considered part of the Middle East sometimes, part of Cyprus is considered part of the Middle East, although they're really part of Europe. So that's what makes discussing the Arab world a little tricky, is vague borders. So today what I'm going to be discussing is the region, the literacy rates by country, education reform in some of those countries, the Arabic phonetic alphabet and how it differs in some ways to the American phonetic alphabet, how we should consider culture in the education, because culture plays a big part in the Arab world. Okay, we are going to discuss, like I said, the Levant region, but I'm only going to keep it down to 4 countries: Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Palestine, or Israel, however you want to look at it. The literacy rates in Jordan is 93%, which means that people of the age of 15 or older, that's what this is based on. So 93% of people who are 15 years or older are considered literate. Syria, the number is 84%. In Lebanon, it's 90%, and Palestine is 95.6%. So we will discuss some of the education reform now. The Monroe Doctrine. I'm sure we have heard of it. We don't really know too much of it. But Paul Monroe, who was a professor, an American professor, wrote an essay to President Woodrow Wilson, and it was discussing things post-World War I, and how the world is developing due to that influence. So he wrote an essay in the Monroe Doctrine. Part of the Monroe Doctrine was an essay called Western Education in Muslim Lands. And what's funny to me is how they spelled Muslim, then the evolution of our language and such. But instead of, now we consider it Muslim or Islamic. So Western Education in Muslim Land. He discussed the reawakening of education in the Middle East. He noticed that from the influence of the wars that occurred during that time and the colonization of these countries. So Jordan was a colony of Britain. France and Syria were colonies of Lebanon and Syria were colonies of France. And Palestine was also part of Great Britain, and a part of Palestine was part of Great Britain at the time. So what he noticed during this reawakening of education is that people were reading more, they were reading newspapers, they wanted to learn, they were learning multiple languages because of just the diversity and the influx of the of foreign people who were coming in, the soldiers and everything. So people that were coming in during that time. And the Monroe Doctrine was written in 1925, so you might want to think of that time period and industrialization. And so he recognized that there's a potential for a greater Western influence on education during that time. There's also currently, and then as well, there's a prevalence of foreign languages. So Jordan, the second language is English. Syria is French and English. Lebanon's also French and English. And Palestine, Hebrew and English. And as you can imagine, since Palestine, I should mention that Palestine, of course, the primary language is Arabic, but many, because of who populate the area, it's Hebrew and English are the second languages. Sorry, I'm trying to read off my PowerPoint at the same time. And all that, as you can imagine, is all due to the colonization of those countries. Okay, now there's some educational reform. There has been, there's a demand for English-speaking teachers and teachers from the West. You don't need a bachelor's degree to even teach in in these countries, but you do need to be qualified, and that all depends on the school you're applying to. So public and private schools are your options. The public schools are state-run, gender segregated. It's more for the lower class. So if you can't afford a better education and you're not expected to put your child through private school if you can't afford it. So in those areas, there's really not a middle class. It's either low or high. So there's either a lower class or an upper class. And according to where you are is pretty much how you're going to school your child. So, and as you can imagine, there's no need for foreign language teachers in a public school setting. The education is free for a public school. There's no foreign languages. And recently, Lebanon has noticed that most of its upper class citizens are sending their children to private schools, and that the enrollment for public schools has declined. So they have instituted a reform that began in 2010 and it's supposed to end in 2015. It's a program called Dirasati, and that means my education. So they're just making people a little more accountable. They're focusing on math and reading and sciences, similar to what we do in the West. Now, private schools are pretty much where you're going to want to work overseas. So if you, for instance, like a private school, there are American schools, there are British schools, there are Canadian schools, and like I have family in Jordan, and that's where they send their kids are private schools. They're very modern. Like they have activities like fencing, and a lot of expats are over there, so they'll send their kids to these modern foreign schools. You can also send your child to a religious school. So it can be an Orthodox school, a Catholic school, a Baptist school, a Lutheran school. Those schools can be gender segregated or co-ed. Most of the modern schools are not segregated, and that's also for the upper class. They can be immersion schools where all of the curriculum is given in English or French, even sometimes, and they pay pretty well, comparatively speaking, to the citizens of the area. So, for instance, in Jordan, if you make 1,000 Jordanian dinars, that's considered a really good, income, and that's what they pay their teachers. And if you have your degree, you're even more desirable. Okay, now I'll get into the fun stuff, the Arabic phonetic alphabet. So hopefully you can pick up a little bit of the Arabic sounds. And there's two types of Arabic: the modern standard Arabic which is more formal. It's strange. It's called modern, but it's not. It's very formal. It's written and it's universal. So if you are in a Gulf nation like Saudi Arabia or United Arab Emirates, or if you're in Lebanon, your written Arabic will be the same. Your dialect will differ greatly. A lot of the Gulf regions speak more guttural. It's kind of rough and throaty. I know that's not a an actual term, but you kind of catch my drift. And the other type of Arabic is colloquial Arabic. This is the informal, conversational Arabic, and that is where your dialects will come in. So the Arabic alphabet has no vowels, and it is written from right to left, not left to right like English. So I'm going to demonstrate to you how a letter can turn into a vowel when you use one of these diacritics. And a diacritic is like like an accent or a tilde in Spanish, for instance. So, for instance, here's the letter. The first letter in the Arabic alphabet. It's alif. Okay? Alif is comparable to our A. If I could make a comparison. When written with a fatha on top, like so, it makes the a sound. When it is written with a dhammeh, see that's kind of like a little loop, a dhammeh, it makes the oo sound. Okay? And when it is written with the fatha on the bottom, it makes the e sound. So if you could say together, a, u, e. Okay? The same thing with the other alphabet. So if we have a ba is the next alphabet, the next letter in the Arabic alphabet. Ba is comparable to our B. So ba is like a little, I always imagined it like a little saucer when I was a kid, and with a little dot on the bottom. So if I'm going to write 3 bas in a row, I'm going to put the fatha on this one, the dhamma on this one, I made it kind of big, sorry, and the fatha on the bottom. Okay. Now we can say that this is ba, bu, bi. So you see how that works? Not complicated at all, I'm sure. Now these are the most common diacritics used in the Arabic language. That's why I just wanted to do a quick demonstration so you kind of understand how it is. Now there are 5 emphatic sounds of these 28 letters, of these 28 consonants. And those are a little tricky, and I would like for this kind of to be the interactive portion of my presentation. The only way I could explain it is like a hard D, T, S, th, like TH, and a Q. Put in those little brackets. Okay, so to produce these sounds, the root of the tongue is retracted into the pharynx. So it'd be the, not the, sa, the, and qa. It's like a glottal stop. I mean something similar to a glottal qa. It's more uvular. So you can go ahead and try that now. The, sa, the, qa. Now this is in combination to just a regular da, ta, s, th, and q. However we could pronounce the q. Sometimes it sounds like a K, and sometimes it sounds like a Q to us. Okay. Another very important factor in teaching in the Arabic countries are that the majority of those living in the Arab nations are Muslim. So we have to consider the Muslim people, considering many of the governments themselves are Islamic, and the nations are Islamic. So the prominent holidays are Islamic holidays. So teachers are required to dress conservatively, similar to what you would say, like bankers' clothes. You wouldn't wear anything sleeveless, nothing low cut, no short dresses or skirts. And of course, as teachers, we should know by now not to dress like that in the United States as well. Muslim holidays are prevalently observed. There's no school on Fridays because that's the Muslim day of prayer. And be prepared to work on Saturdays. If you're willing to give up your Saturdays, then maybe the teaching in the Middle East is good for you. The work week and academic week is typically Sunday through Thursdays. You want to steer clear of religiously offensive content in your lessons. So anything that involves pigs being heroic characters or endearing characters or even intelligent in stories, like the Three Little Pigs. Something like Charlotte's Web would not be a good fit for your Muslim students. Anything involving eating ham or bacon or pork, because it is perceived that they are just disgusting creatures and sinful creatures. And illustrations or pictures of feet, shoes, socks, undergarments. And try to stay away, if you can ever learn about some of the words in the Arabic language. Some of them sound closely relative to some of the vulgar and offensive words in Arabic. So some of our English words sound like vulgar words in Arabic, and vice versa. So you might giggle a few times when you hear people speak Arabic. And just play it safe and try not to teach about any romantic stories, anything that can be perceived as seductive. So if you're a female, for instance, in another situation, in a professional environment, if you're a female, give yourself physical space between you and males you encounter, and that your friendliness is not misconstrued as being like flirtatious. And the same thing also with males. Don't be alone with the opposite sex. It's not perceived as being wholesome. Now, the Arabic people are affectionate towards kids. They hug and kiss. We can hug and kiss our students if we love them, and we do. Sometimes as an American teacher in the States, I just want to give my students a big hug and a kiss and just pinch their cheeks sometimes, but can't do that here. Adults greet one another with an embrace and a kiss on both cheeks. It's considered inappropriate, though, for a woman to do that to a man, to greet a man in that way, if he's not family. And there's a lot of inequality that takes place, and unfortunately, in the workplace, there aren't many enforced laws that prevent that from happening in the current time, but maybe in the future. Now, there's a lot of information regarding the Arabic nations, and it is, if you ever get a chance and just get curious about it, there's a lot of opportunities to teach overseas, and may be a good fit for you. I hope you like my presentation.